Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ask Matt Lloyd. So right now we're doing this episode here in Bali, Indonesia, at our Diamond Mastermind. I've got Kevin here, and Kevin's got the question for today. So Kevin, what do you want to know?
Matt, we know you invest in mentorship constantly. What percentage of your income are you willing to invest into education?
Okay, truthfully, I don't think there's a very specific number, but I'll give you kind of a ballpark.
Sure.
Let me start off by just telling you what kind of numbers I do invest in my own education. So this year I spent $40,000 on it's a 1-year program with a guy called Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, which I'm going to I think in several months. That's in Toronto. So I believe I get 4 2-day sessions with him.
Okay. I'm
not even very clear on the details. It might only be 2, but I've heard very good things about it. So I did put in $40,000 into that.
Okay.
I have a regular consultant who I pay $10,000 base to every month, but that usually ends up being $30,000 or even $40,000 a month. And he's someone who's built a company, a similar company, to a much bigger scale than I've currently done with Mobe.
Okay.
So probably about 5 times the size in terms of revenue at its peak. That's where he was with that. So I talk to him pretty often, several times a week, might be an hour at a time. So that's quite a bit there. Last year I spent $22,000 going to a castle in Scotland. That was with a guy who'd built a mining and oil company from scratch and sold it for $400 million. Okay, so I did that. I spent $30,000 on a 1-day consult, and that was all about crafting a sales presentation to sell a high-ticket program in the tens of thousands of dollars. I spend a lot, and I buy information products all the time. Right. If I see something that I think, I might be able to get one good idea from this, I'll send that to my assistant and I'll say, hey, can you buy this for me and send me the login details? Okay. And a lot of it I haven't even logged into, but I will at some point. So I tell you all of this just to make a point that I spend pretty freely when it comes to my own education. Sure. And it wasn't always that way. In the very beginning, I was quite frugal with what I was spending on my own education. I remember when I first started out in late 2008, it was a really big deal for me to even buy a $2,000 information product. One of the first products I ever bought was by a guy called Frank Kern, and then shortly after that by a guy called Eben Pagan. Okay, and they were both about $2,000 each. Right. And I remember buying those information products, and it was just an enormous deal for me at the time. I thought, wow, this is a lot of money. But now I'm much more comfortable with it. And people might say, well, that's only because you're making a lot more money now. And that is true in a way, but it's also more true that now I better appreciate that truly the best investment you ever make is always going to be in yourself.
Sure.
It really will be. And some of the biggest innovations that Mobe has had, and those biggest spurts of growth where we've gone from a current revenue level to like 1.25 of that the very next month, where we've had 20-25% growth from one month to the next. What caused much of that, just looking back in hindsight, was just one good idea. One good idea that I got from someone that I paid money to has paid off many times over. So if I had to give you a ballpark figure, I'd say maybe 10%, something like that. Okay. Could be more, but I'm quite comfortable spending 10% on what I'm netting. Okay, not gross, but what I'm actually netting. Sure. I'm comfortable reinvesting that back into my own education. Got to be careful that you don't become an information junkie where you're just buying product after product and then you're never even implementing any of it.
Yeah, implementation is most important. You got to put into action what you learn.
Exactly, but at the same time, if you do buy a product or a seminar and you're presented with, say, 100 ideas in that product or seminar and you only implement one, personally, I consider that a good investment. In the very beginning, I didn't. I used to think that I had to implement everything in a course before I could go and buy the next course. And the reality is you're never going to implement everything.
It's almost impossible.
It is.
Look at this event here.
Right.
You got 1,000 golden nuggets we've learned in the last 10 days.
Yes.
I could probably implement 10.
Well, yeah, so we've been here now for 9 days. We've got one more day left. This is a 10-day seminar, so that's a very long time. And yeah, you probably have got 1,000 things that you could go and do.
Right.
And Kevin, the truth is, if you go and implement 10 of them, just 10 of them very well,
Right.
then that will be money well spent.
Sure, absolutely.
And where most people go wrong is they think that they have to implement a few hundred of them or all of them, and it's just never going to happen. I mean, I've been to seminars before where, I still haven't implemented 99.5% of it,
Right.
but I consider it a good experience. Maybe I got one good connection at that seminar, or just one good idea.
And that could make a huge difference. Just
Absolutely.
one thing from each event.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks for the question, guys. If you have a question, you can go to askmclloyd.com. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in.